Alright, with Spider-Man Brand New Day just around the corner, I thought let's make a video about the journey of the MCU Spider-Man so far. Now, if you're following my Road to Doomsday videos, I've been doing all the X-Men, Spider-Man movies. I might do other ones, it depends. It depends on when I upload this video. But we're going to go on to the journey of the MCU Spider-Man with Tom Holland. So, with his first outing in the MCU. His journey begins in Captain America Civil War, which was released back in 2016. That's what my first channel was based off of, the name Civil War, because Civil War was the movie at the time. That's what we named our channel, the Civil Canadians, at the time. But anyways, it starts off in Civil War with Tony Stark meeting up with Peter Parker in his hometown of Queens, and he's obviously flirting with Aunt May until Peter shows up from school. And then Tony Stark obviously knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, because Tony Stark is not dumb and he has AI to track people and follow him wherever he goes. Gives him a whole speech. I'm like, hey, I'm building a team and I need your help because you have an extraordinary amount of powers. And he's like, they're talking about how he makes his own web fluids, and they at the time it was like spaceships, something over Phoenix or Dallas or whatever, I don't even remember. But then they end up going to Germany. There was a big whole sequence where Captain America ended up fighting with Winter Soldier, Falcon, and obviously Captain America himself. And he was very crucial on the taking down of Ant-Man when he became Giant Man, which was pretty cool. And he was very whippy and very what a teenager should be. So Tom Holland's first outing as Spider-Man in the MCU was Captain America Civil War, and he did a great job. He worked off well with each other, especially with Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr. Spider-Man's journey was just awesome. Like he just started off 6 months ago. Now he's in Germany fighting against Captain America and his team, all because of the Sokovia Accords, which are separating them from being a team, because Tony Stark wants to be responsible and he wants the government to be in control. But also Captain America knows from the Winter Soldier that the government is corrupt and they have agendas, and they can say, hey, go take care of this problem, but don't go take care of that problem. But Captain America's like, no, if we need to go somewhere, we're gonna go. And it all started off with the Avengers: Age of Ultron, with Sokovia being blown up and killing a lot of innocent people. So the next part of Tom Holland's Spider-Man journey in the MCU is Spider-Man Homecoming. So he just came off Germany fighting Captain America and his team, and he's actually, in the beginning of the movie, he was actually vlogging everything, because now everybody is into streamers and all this kind of crap. So he's just vlogging everything with Happy Hogan, and Happy's like, bro, what are you doing? You know you can't show this to anybody, right? He's like, I know. Very innocent kid, which, come on, Spider-Man that's who he is. He's a teenager. So he's in high school. We meet up with Ned, his best friend, and he's very tight circle, so he doesn't have no friends besides Ned. They build the Death Star together. It's called Spider-Man Homecoming, not just because the movie has a homecoming in it, but because it's literally homecoming for Spider-Man coming back to the MCU, even though he's not fully in the MCU, but he's in the MCU because, studio rights and all that crap. So he's there, he's Spider-Man, and people find out he's Spider-Man. Ned finds out he's Spider-Man, and a new villain comes all about because of what happened after the Avengers movie. Adrian Toomes is obviously the Vulture, and he's sort of like Damage Control, but he's cleanup crew. And then the Damage Control comes into the scene and tells Adrian Toomes, we're taking over, even though Tony Stark is funding Damage Control at that point of the MCU story. So he goes rogue, obviously, gets all upset. He starts stealing the tech, and then he becomes the Vulture, because you know what vultures do. Then he has a run-in with Spider-Man. Spider-Man obviously has to stop him a couple of times. We meet the Shocker, and then there's two different versions of the Shocker. And Vulture ended up actually one of the Shockers, which I'm like, okay. So Spider-Man's just doing his Spider-Man things, and he's getting a whiff of it because he was invited to a party. And then everybody was making fun of Peter, especially Flash Thompson, which, if you want my honest opinion, I think Flash Thompson was actually miscast. They shouldn't have gone with who they got with, but whatever. So he investigating a problem because he saw an explosion, because he was going to come into the party as Spider-Man, but he ditched the party and ended up going to investigate, and that's where he met the Shocker and the Prowler as well, Aaron Davis, but he's not the Prowler yet. Uh, then he runs into the Vulture. Vulture takes him up to the sky. And then, Spider-Man's a kid. He's like, what the hell am I going to do? I'm like, oh my God, help, help. And Vulture takes him up all the way up to the sky and just drops him like 30 feet from the air, I think. I don't know. I can't really tell. Maybe higher. He ends up falling in because his parachute didn't work. Iron Man comes to save the day, but obviously Iron Man's not in the suit. He's in somewhere else around the world. And Tony Stark said, hey, leave it alone. And obviously, what do you think Peter Parker's going to do? Not leave it alone. So there's a tournament going on in Washington. They end up going to Washington because Peter Parker and Ned Leeds actually end up tracking him to Washington, D.C. They win the competition, but obviously Peter Parker doesn't do that because he ends up going to fight the Vulture and trying to stop it. But he end up stuck in the damage control facility, which won't open till morning. And he actually has an AI, calls Karen, and is trying to figure out ways to get out of this facility, but he can't until the morning. So Peter Parker Spider-Man, I should say, ends up getting out of the damage control facility, and then everybody's going to the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument explodes because one of the crystals ends up, when it goes through radiation, it activates and starts making things explode. And then he saves the day. The whole sequence, the whole Washington Monument sequence is pretty cool. Obviously, the cops don't know who he is because Spider-Man's in New York, and Spider-Man's not a big name yet. So he saves the day, he disappears, whatever. He asks Liz Allen to go to the homecoming dance. He says yes. He ends up going to go pick her up. And the biggest twist at that time was when Adrian Toomes opens up that door and we're like, what? And he's like, and then we're like, none of us in the theater were expecting Michael Keaton to be the father of Liz Allen, which was crazy. So he opens up the door. Peter Parker's face just goes completely white, and he's like, what the heck is going on? When people say don't show them you're scared, yeah, he was completely showing Adrian Toomes that he was freaking out because he knew who he was. And Peter's just trying to keep his cool. And Liz Allen comes down and gives her the brochure, whatever the thing's called. I'm stuttering over my words. But they go to the car ride. They end up going to a homecoming. And as Peter Parker's talking, he's like, oh, yeah, I work for Tony Stark. And I know Spider-Man. And then Adrian Toomes is in the car with the traffic light turning from red to green because, Vulture is green. He's like, you sure we haven't met? Because the voice sounds familiar, because they didn't meet at the boat when Spider-Man caused all that problem with the boat. He's like, no. And then obviously they get to the school, and Agent Toomes is like, does she know? He's like, no, good. Close to the chest. And they have a whole conversation. It's like, I know who you are. I'm like, see, Adrian Toomes is not that stupid. Like, he put two and two together pretty quick just by the voice. I'm surprised that nobody else was able to put two and two together, but they ended up doing that. They have a big fight towards the end, but because Adrian Toomes was stealing the airplane, because the Avengers were moving from the Avengers Tower to upstate, and Adrian Toomes tried to steal it. Spider-Man ended up saving the day. Of that whole air sequence was crazy. And then they fight at the beach. I think it was Coney Island or close to it. And then Spider-Man saves the day, and Iron Man's like, hey, you saved the day, even though you screwed the pooch. But there's a whole bunch of reporters there. You have the Iron Spider suit. Let's make the official announcement that you'll be the next Avenger. Obviously, Spider-Man turns it down. He's like, thank you so much, but I think I'll just want to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, be a street hero. And Tony Stark and Happy were like, good choice. Even though there was a whole bunch of announcements and reporters waiting for an announcement, and the announcement ended up being that Iron Man proposed to Pepper Potts. But yeah, that's the journey so far for those two films. Now we get on to Infinity War, and that's going to be something different. So now his journey continues in Avengers Infinity War. Spider-Man did have a crucial part when he was part of Iron Man's team, because Iron Man was separated from the Avengers during Civil War, and Spider-Man joins Iron Man in space to go find Thanos with Doctor Strange and the Guardians of the Galaxy. They ended up having a big fight in Titan. Not really much to say in terms of Infinity War, because he helped Iron Man in New York when Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian showed up in New York, and Spider-Man tried to help, but he got sucked up in the air and got the Iron Spider suit. They were traveling in the donut. That's all I can say, that they were traveling in a donut. They end up in Titan. Thanos shows up with the Infinity Stones with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Spider-Man helps trying to defeat Thanos, but Star-Lord, being Star-Lord, end up getting his feelings in the way because Thanos killed Gamora for the Soul Stone. And then Spider-Man, just after Thanos snapped his fingers, Spider-Man was the ones who got dusted. Next up is Endgame. Spider-Man only showed up at the end of Endgame when they had that whole Avengers Assemble sequence. He gave Tony Stark a hug that he was longing for a long time in Homecoming. He helps the whole Avengers and the whole Earth, the whole wide world, to stop Thanos, and defeated Thanos, and was heartbroken because Tony Stark ended up sacrificing himself after he said, "I am Iron Man." Heartbreaking. Tony Stark sees him, starts crying because Tony Stark was his mentor in the whole franchise when Spider-Man showed up back in Civil War. Now, Spider-Man's journey continues with Spider-Man Far From Home, where he came back from the blimp. It's been 5 years. Now the whole team, the whole high school of Midtown High, have to restart their junior year, grade 11. They end up taking a tour to Europe. Nick Fury calls him to give him some Edith glasses, and a new hero arises called Mysterio, which we all know. All of us Spider-Man fans know Mysterio ain't no hero. He's just an illusionist who was trying to get back at his old boss, Tony Stark, for calling his technology barf, because he used that technology to bring back everything, like bring back memories and see if he can live through things differently. So they go throughout the world. They go to Austria. I think at the end, they end up in London as for the final battle. Tony Stark gave Nick Fury the glasses, and Nick Fury gave the Edith glasses to Spider-Man, and they had a big fight. I can't remember if it was Austria. I think it was Austria. I can't remember off the top of my head, where they were fighting the Elementals, and the Elementals was the big threat. Mysterio helped Spider-Man, or I should say the other way around, that Spider-Man helped Mysterio defeat the fake Elementals, because this final one was fire, and fire was the one that killed Mysterio's Earth. And by the way, Mysterio was played by Jake Gyllenhaal. Great cast. It's good to see full circle of Jake Gyllenhaal, because he was actually rumored to replace Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2 when Tobey Maguire actually hurt his back. So Tony Stark was his old boss, but his whole thing was just to get the glasses to get back at Iron Man and Tony Stark, but just using Peter Parker to befriend him. They ended up trusting each other. Peter gives him the glasses, and then he realizes that Mysterio was evil the whole time, because a piece of the Stark drones ended up getting ripped off, and a whole sequence of events was happening through that digital thing, and Peter Parker and MJ found out that Mysterio's bad. They have a big whole fight in London. Obviously, Spider-Man comes up victorious, but Mysterio is very mysterious because he played on Spider-Man's emotions. And when he said execute them all, he turned that and manipulated that video into something not great for Spider-Man. So at the end of the day, Mysterio ends up dying, but like Mysterio said in the film, they'll see what I want them to see, which, holy crap, like, you have the nerve to do that. That's nuts. So at the end, Spider-Man is swinging through New York, picks up MJ. They go down to Madison Square Garden, and a big video. We get the reveal of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. So he's playing the same character he did in the Tobey Maguire movies. He did not play JJ in Amazing Spider-Man because he wasn't even in the film. So Mysterio comes out on the board, says Peter Parker's real name is Spider-Man, and then we get at the end of the movie, we get Spider-Man saying, "What the?" And then the movie cuts. I think that was one of the biggest cliffhangers for any MCU movie at the time, back in 2019. Now we get to his journey in Spider-Man No Way Home. This is where his story ends. temporarily until we get Spider-Man Brand New Day, which comes out this summer. So now let's talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. So Spider-Man No Way Home takes place right after Far From Home. His secret identity got revealed. He's trying to escape the city. Everybody's trying to follow him. The damage control end up finding him, arresting him, putting him in temporary jail. Because they're trying to say, why you do this? Why do the Stark drones are yours? Blah blah blah. And he's just not having it. Now they're all about to finish high school. They're going to apply for all their schools, and they want to go to Boston. And all the schools that they applied for got rejected because of current events. Because Spider-Man and Ned and MJ know who Spider-Man is, so any affiliation with Spider-Man results in automatic rejection, which kind of sucks. Cause I know the feeling of rejection, and so Spider-Man had enough, and he ends up going to Doctor Strange, asking him for help because he had history with Doctor Strange, and he knew he had the Time Stone, and he gave it up back in Infinity War. So he asked Doctor Strange to reverse time and make it as Mysterio never revealed his secret identity. But the problem is Doctor Strange didn't have that. But then they went into the ruins of Kof Kal, or the spell of Kof Kal, and they ended up trying to make everybody forget who Spider-Man is, like forget Peter Parker. But obviously, when Doctor Strange was trying to do the spell, he kept on changing. He changed it 6 times, and then at the end, so something ended up going wrong. An explosion happened in the not spiritual realm, but like the multiverse realm, that ended up bringing villains from other franchises into the MCU, which caused a bunch of chaos. So Spider-Man got kicked out of the Sanctum because he lied to Doctor Strange. And he has to go find, I think, one of the administrators on the bridge, and that's where he meets Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. They have a quick battle, and then after that battle, first off, Dr. Octopus was confused because you're not Peter Parker, and he's like, I'm so confused because that is Peter Parker, but he's thinking about Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And then the Green Goblin shows up, which is crazy. Electro, Spider-Man has a great battle with Electro in the woods. Sandman shows up, but I guess because of COVID restrictions and all that, Sandman was just all CG. I guess Thomas Hitting Church couldn't make it. And then we get the Lizard showing up too, but Doctor Strange had got the Lizard. And so then Doctor Strange made like some kind of portal thingy, like this little box, to send everybody back home, because if they die, they die, because in their universe they all die to Spider-Man. I don't think the Lizard died though, and Sandman didn't die either. So it's kind of, not all of them die, but at the end, Spider-Man goes fighting against Doctor Strange. They end up in the mirror dimensions, and Spider-Man just beats Doctor Strange because Spider-Man is smart with math. And so Spider-Man takes them to Happy Hogan's apartment, tries to help all of them. At the end, he does help Dr. Octopus. He puts the little chip that he had in the back of his neck, controlling the tentacles, helps him out. And Green Goblin is there, and then Electro's there. He's helping everybody. Lizard stays in the truck. And Spider-Man's senses end up going tingling. They're like, something's wrong. And then, Peter, everything okay? He realizes the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, changed from Norman to Green Goblin. And that sequence of events, like the whole apartment fight with Spider-Man and Green Goblin, was crazy, especially when Spider-Man was on top of Green Goblin, just beating the living crap out of him. And William Dafoe's the performance as the Green Goblin should be like mirror to the Joker. He just looked at him, smiled, and heckled. Ha 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 ha. I'm like, and Tom Holland's like, oh my goodness. So at the end, the whole apartment sequence ends up, Green Goblin ends up killing Aunt May, and before she dies, she's like, with great power must also come great responsibility. And then she died there. Then the whole damage control agents show up. Happy gets arrested. I forgot Charlie Cox makes an appearance as Daredevil. Oh, not Daredevil, Matt Murdock, for his lawyer. Spider-Man is completely broken. Like, he's completely heartbroken. May is dead. He literally has nobody besides Mary Jane, or MJ and Ned. I always think Zendaya is Mary Jane, but she's Michelle Jones. So then Ned has the sling ring. They're talking like, I wish I could see him, and then the sparkles happen. He opened one portal. Guess who shows up? Andrew Garfield shows up. His Peter Parker shows up, and the portal says he's Peter Parker Spider-Man. He does it. Ned tries it again. Tobey Maguire shows up, and we're like, when I was in the theater went nuts. Like, I've never experienced a theater like that since Endgame. Like, the theater was so crazy. I wish I can relive that whole moment again. They have a quick Garfield and Maguire's Spider-Man fight quickly, but then they realize they're the same person, just in different universes. They go see Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They talk to him above the school, on the roof of the school, because every Spider-Man had his moment after Aunt May or Uncle Ben died. They share a moment together. And it was just a beautiful scene. Like, Garfield, Spider-Man was explaining how he lost his MJ, how he lost Uncle Ben. Tobey Maguire talked about how he lost Tobey Maguire explained to him how he lost his Uncle Ben, and Maguire's like, I got my revenge on the killer of my uncle. It didn't make it better. So the two other Spider-Man were there to help Peter overcome his sadness and his trauma, basically, because he just lost Aunt May. They go back into the school lab. They make anti-serums and a whole bunch of other stuff to cure the villains. They go. The final battle takes place in the Empire State, the Statue of Liberty. They have a big fight. All the villains get cured, and a lot of the footage gets were reused from other films. Like Sandman was reused from Spider-Man 3. The Lizard was reused from The Amazing Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange ends up coming up. It starts trying to help Spider-Man, the Green Goblin, and not Tobey Maguire. Tom Holland Spider-Man end up having a fight, and Tobey Maguire actually stops Tom Holland, so Peter wins from killing the Green Goblin, but the Green Goblin ended up stabbing Tobey Maguire in the back, and I'm like, ugh. I'm like, no, don't kill him, not yet. That was pretty funny. My reaction, so I was like, ugh. Like, what? But at the end, Maguire was laying down on the floor. Garfield threw the anti-serum to Tom. Tom just put it right in the neck. Ended the Green Goblin there. Spider-Man ended up going up to see Doctor Strange and said, just make everybody forget who I am because all the villains are coming. It's going to be a never-ending fight. So now the whole world forgets who Spider-Man is. His suit, pretty sure, does not work anymore, so he had to make his own cloth suit. And then the logos are inspired by his two brothers from other universes, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. He puts the suit, the symbols, he puts all three of them mashing together, which is awesome. And then he swings off in the middle of winter. You can see the Rockefeller Center there, the tree. And that's it. That's his journey that's Spider-Man's journey for the MCU so far. Now we're going to see Spider-Man Brand New Day in a couple of weeks, or it depends on whenever this video is going up. And then you're going to see his journey continue, taking on Scorpion, the Hulk, and a whole bunch of other characters. So if you guys like this video, make sure to follow, subscribe wherever you're watching this. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. Be good. Can't wait for Spider-Man Brand New Day. I got that thing on the wall there. So, yeah, let's be excited. Be good, guys.